Hi, I'm Kyle Bachus. For the last 30 years, I've spent my life helping Colorado families whose lives were turned upside down by car accidents that caused serious injury or death. And for me, this isn't just professional, it's personal. My own mom was killed by a truck driver while she was walking across a crosswalk with the walk sign lit. So when I talk about the consequences of careless driving, I know them not only as a lawyer, but as someone who's lived through the loss in my own family. And that's why I'm here today with American Driving Academy, because I believe driver education can save lives. I want to share with you what really happens if you're in a crash in Colorado. Not scare tactics, but the truth. Things most people never hear until it's too late. And if you understand these consequences, both the legal ones and the financial ones, you'll make better choices to protect yourself, your family, and the people around you on the road. When most people think about being in a car accident, they imagine the worst that can happen is getting a ticket, maybe paying a fine. But in reality, the consequences can be far more serious. In Colorado, an accident can change your life in two very different ways. The first is criminal liability, and the second is civil liability. Criminal liability is about whether you broke society's rules, whether the police and district attorney decide to charge you with a crime. Civil liability is about whether you, or people if they harm you, owe money for the damages caused in a crash. Both of these can hit you at the same time and affect your future forever. When there's a crash, the police don't just show up to direct traffic. They show up to figure out exactly what happened and who's at fault. Well, how do they do that? They talk to witnesses, they look for video evidence, and they examine the scene itself. But here's what most people don't realize. Your own car is telling on you. Every modern vehicle has a black box just like an airplane, and it's constantly recording data. Your speed, whether you brake, how hard you were on the gas, even whether you're turning your steering wheel. And did you know if you crash, your car's black box saves that data, that last 5 seconds of what you were doing forever. So investigators can download it and know exactly what you were doing. They can even combine black box data from both cars, use drones to scan the crash scene, and recreate the entire collision in a computer simulation. So when police investigate, they're not guessing. And if they find that you broke the law, that's where criminal charges come in. Could be careless driving, could be reckless driving, could be driving under the influence. And here's the reality check. If you kill someone while driving a car in Colorado, drunk or high, even if it's your first offense, even if you have a clean driving record, in Colorado, you're often looking at 7 to 10 years in prison, or more if there are multiple victims. So that's criminal liability, the police and prosecutors punishing you for breaking the law. But it doesn't end there, because you still have to deal with the civil consequences as well. On the civil side, civil liability is all about negligence. That means failing to act as a reasonable person would under the circumstances. Here's the big difference. In a criminal case, the state has to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But in civil court, the standard is actually lower. The injured person just has to prove it's more likely true than not true that you caused the harm, and if they prove that, you owe the damages. So first, if you damage somebody's property, a car, a fence, a bike, you're gonna be on the hook for the retail cost to repair it or replace it. Second, if you injure somebody, you're gonna have to pay for all of their medical bills, all of their lost wages, all of their out-of-pocket expenses, even for things like prescriptions. Plus, there's an entire different category of damages you owe, and that's things like pain, suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, physical impairment, disfigurement. Now in Colorado, pain and suffering damages can be awarded up to $1.5 million in an injury case, and in a wrongful death case, those damages can be awarded up to $2,125,000. So If you're reckless or drunk, there's actually no cap at all. A jury can award any amount. Now, here's a bankruptcy twist. If you cause a crash through ordinary negligence, then some of your debts from that crash can be discharged in bankruptcy. But if you cause an injury or death while drunk or high or driving recklessly, those debts stick forever. So, criminal liability can take away your freedom. Civil liability can take away your financial future, and both can happen at the same time. Here's something most new drivers don't know. If you're under 18, you don't get your license alone. An adult over 21, and it's usually your parent, has to sign a form down at the DMV so that you can get your license. And when they sign, they're accepting legal responsibility for everything you do behind the wheel. And that means if you cause a crash, your parents can be held liable as if they were the ones driving. So if you're tempted to take risks, please remember, it's not just your future on the line, it's your family's too. Let's talk about auto insurance. When it comes to getting auto insurance, maybe you went online, clicked through one of those ads with the gecko or one that promises, hey, I'm gonna save you 15% in 15 minutes. You told them you wanted the cheapest policy possible, so they sold you the state minimum. That means in Colorado, you have $25,000 in bodily injury liability coverage and $15,000 in property damage liability coverage. You're street legal, it feels like a good deal, and you think you're covered. Well, guess what? You may be very wrong, and here's why. Insurance doesn't pay what you owe. It only pays up to what you bought. Let me give you an example. You bought $25,000 of bodily injury liability coverage. Then you cause a crash, and the person you hurt has $100,000 in total damages. Your insurance company is not writing a check for $100,000. They stop at the limit that you bought, the $25,000. That's it. The other $75,000, that's on you, personally. It becomes your personal debt, your judgment. Now, if you've got savings, investments, equity in a house, a lawyer can go after that. If you don't have those things, you could be staring right at bankruptcy. And remember, it's not just about what you bought. Every other driver on the road went through this same process when buying insurance. Some of them also chose the cheapest option, which means if they hurt you, their insurance might only cover $25,000, even if your damages are hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. So yes, the gecko saved you 15%, but it might cost you everything else. Now let's talk about a coverage that can actually help your family tremendously. It's called underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage. Think about it as your safety net. We're gonna refer to it as UM coverage. So here's how it works. If an at-fault driver harms you or a family member, and that driver has no insurance or not enough insurance, or let's say that at-fault driver flees the scene, so it's a hit and run, your UM coverage steps in and pays you what the at-fault driver should have paid you. Now, this coverage does not replace coverage that the at-fault driver might have, it stacks on top of it. For example, if you're in a crash and the at-fault driver only bought the Colorado minimum of $25,000, but your medical bills are $100,000, then the at-fault driver's insurance will pay the first $25,000. But if you bought $25,000 of UM coverage, that will add another $25,000, giving you a total of $50,000. That's stacking. Your UM coverage adds to the at-fault driver's coverage to help fill the gap. Now, here's the part you can check on today. After this class, pull out your insurance declarations page. Look for the line that says uninsured/underinsured motorist coverage. Sometimes it might just list initials like UM, UIM, or both. If you have it, there will be a dollar amount like $25,000 or even $100,000. If you don't, it might say not applicable, it might say rejected, or it might just be missing altogether. If you see rejected or that coverage is missing, I strongly suggest that you call your agent and add it. This coverage is relatively inexpensive and it protects your entire household. Because here's the truth, many vehicles on the road in Colorado either have no insurance or they bought the bare minimum. makes sure that if one of those drivers injures you or your family will still have the resources to pay bills, replace your wages, and keep your lives going. And keep this in mind too. You can't add coverage after a crash to cover the crash. You can't call your insurance company after a wreck and say, hey, I want to add more coverage, I got in a wreck. The only insurance that counts is what was already on your policy at the time of the crash. So if you're carrying the bare minimum or you rejected coverage, that's what you're going to be stuck with if something happens. That's why it's so important to make sure you're appropriately insured before you ever get behind the wheel. One last thing I'd like to explain about car insurance. It's called medical payments coverage. It's also known as MedPay. In Colorado, insurance companies are required to offer you MedPay, and they usually sell it in increments of $5,000. You can accept it or you could reject it. A lot of people reject it because they think, well, I already have health insurance and I don't need it. But here's why MedPay can still be really valuable. It pays for your co-pays and deductibles if you have health insurance, and it can pay for things that health insurance might not cover, like chiropractic care or other alternate treatments some people may prefer after a crash. And MedPay pays right away without waiting for fault to be determined. But you only get what you buy. If you buy $5,000 of MedPay, that's the maximum it will ever pay. So think of MedPay as a little cushion. It gives you immediate help with bills, flexibility to choose certain types of care, and peace of mind in those first days after an accident. Let's talk for a minute about hit and run accidents. Leaving the scene is a felony. Let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes a driver can make after a crash. That's leaving the scene. Some people think, well, if I've been drinking, if I caused a crash, maybe I can run and avoid the consequences. But in Colorado, you need to know this. If you leave the scene of an accident that causes serious injury or death, you've just committed a felony that is often punished more severely than the DUI itself, because the law doesn't want drivers to benefit by running away and hiding their intoxication. And it's not hard for investigators to prove and to find you. Today, almost everything is on camera. Intersection cameras, business surveillance, dash cams in other vehicles, police body cams, add in eyewitnesses, black box data from your car, even drone scans from the roadway, and it's only a matter of time before the truth actually comes out. So let's be clear. If you stay at the scene, yes, you may face charges. But if you run, you're gonna face harsher charges, a felony on top of everything else. So don't ever think you can outrun the consequences of a crash. Leaving the scene will only make everything worse. You've probably just learned a lot, and I know it can feel overwhelming, but knowledge is power. The more you understand, the safer you'll be on the road, and the better prepared you'll be if a crash happens. At Bachus Schanker, we've been helping Colorado families for almost 30 years. We're your hometown lawyers. We live here, raise our families here, and give back to the communities here. Not every law firm you see on TV or online can say that. There are firms that come into our community, spend money on ads, and try to look local, but they're not. We understand this community, these courts, and these roads. We don't defend drunk drivers, we don't defend people who make reckless choices, but we help families who are victims of other people's reckless actions. And if you ever have any questions, we are here to help. In fact, as part of this partnership with the driving school, we're happy to offer a free insurance policy review. We will look at your policy declarations page with you and make sure you and your family are protected. We've got offices across Colorado. No matter where you are, you can reach us easily. Because at the end of the day, our mission is simple. We're here to keep Colorado families safe, informed, and supported when they need us most. So, drive safe, Take care of each other out there on the road, and know that if your family ever needs us, Bachus and Schanker will be here.